Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio and the channel. We're going to continue some of our flower studies, and I'm going to paint these. These are a really wonderful photo that I got off Adobe Stack of some Rose of Sharon. I'm just going to paint them into a board right here, leave a lot of negative space, and we're going to do, you know, my casual impressionistic kind of style with it. Should be a lot of fun, and we'll try to work kind of quickly. We're going to do a whole series here, starting here this week. What we call brush ups, of working smaller paintings. Those are ones that they're great for holiday sales, great for holiday gifts, and they're great practice. I know a lot of us are starting to get busy again, and so finding some nice ones to practice and to keep our skills level back up is going to be great. Okay, so what I have here is an 11 by 14 board. This is a actually it's a oak ply that I really like, and very strong, stable. I gave it a coat of the canvas prep medium, which is white, and some sealers and stuff, but it's very, very matte in it, so it drags quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my normal palette here. I have just a little bit of them out because it's not going to be a very big painting, but I have my Hansa yellow, Darya dyed yellow, yellow oxide, naphtha red light, burnt sienna, pine green, phthalo blue. This is a, and I have a little bit out here as well, the sapphire blue, which I really like if I'm going to do a nice gray background, which I kind of plan on this one. Red violet, quinacridone violet, titanium white. This is the Deravan's open medium, which I really like in thicker areas, and this is a little cap of extender medium, which I like in thinner areas. I'm a thin, thick painter. Some of you are learning that in watching some of the videos, especially in the last 6 months as we're adding this Deravan medium. What I'm going to do is just take, I'm going to use some extender here in my big brush, and sometimes I'll use, this is a 2-inch wide fusion brush, which I just absolutely love. It puts on material real fast. I'm going to grab a paper towel here, and I'm going to take some of my sapphire, I have it right here, and I'm going to take a little burnt sienna adding to this. It makes a beautiful gray. We'll lighten this with some white, and when I usually make a gray like this, I won't mix it too well here, so I'm going to let some of it come off different colors, and we're just going to push this, and I might even leave some very light, but see all the different colors, you get some of these different tones coming out, and the extender will help it loosen up. Now if I want to get softness into a background of something, I will leave a bit of the wet coat on here and work into it, but I don't want to put it on so thick that it gets hard for me to paint. So I'll work both directions here a bit. We're going to kind of blur this out. I love these colors, you know, this, and you'll find, you know, as you play with colors, it's one of the things I love about the small paintings, painting down like this. A lot of you ask me, you know, when I work on an easel, like I'm working on Jimmy Stewart here, but when you work on an easel, you know, it's a different look than when I work down. When I paint small pieces, I really like to work on a table that's at a slight angle like this, and it goes really fast because I'm just right here, palette to the painting, and it works really fast. When I'm very thoughtful about my painting and I sit back, I love to use the long handle brushes and sit back and get a very casual look that way. I think it's easier to get a casual look with a long handle brush actually as well. Let's put a little heavier bit of maybe some of the blue, and see, I'll just work this into some of the background here so we get some of this, and you're basically getting a beautiful marbleizing kind of color here into the background. Now you can also, you know, in some of this area, you know, we can put in some of this warm, the burnt sienna streaks through. So I have a lighter color, and then I just streak through with some of the other colors here, and you know, get this nice, beautiful model background. Now, where you sometimes have stops and starts, these right here, you just lighten the pressure of your brush and just pull through. Now, I have a really wet, it's kind of a little heavier in here, but the paint itself is very thin, so it doesn't have as much power to it as some of the other the colors that I'll be using. Okay, so it's very thin. But I'm going to come in now with my 3/4 inch fusion, and I want to paint some of these flowers. I want to make up I want to find kind of a medium tone, kind of pink color here, and I'm just going to work it and not make the flower per se as I'm going to be working for the color. So I'm going to take some Naphtha red light, quinacridone violet. That makes that pink really pretty. And I will make it about a medium color of the Rose of Sharon here that I want to paint, and maybe a bit more quinacridone, a little bit of white, and then I'm going to add a bit of the open medium here, which is going to keep my paint thicker. So here you see I had the thinner paint, and here I'm going to go a little bit thicker, and I'm going to come up here. Now, I don't like this top one right here pulling down just a bit, so I'm probably going to push it a top one up just a bit. So, and you'll see it's very wet, and this is what I want this time. I want it wet. I'm going to use the brush here and just lay in some of these colors. Now, it is a fairly warm day today here, and some of this will dry, probably 30 minutes or so, and I can work some of my initial tones while it's wet. That's what I'm going to work at, just getting some of it. But I just want to get some of these pinks down here, maybe a touch of the pinks for something else over here. What's over there? I don't know. But, you know, it's just a little bit of the color, you know, into the background. So mainly our composition will come right into here. Okay. Now let's also just work in, and this may go right through a flower, and I'm not worried about that right now. What I'm worried about is just to get some other tones in here, some working of some other tones. This is a very casual painting, and I want this kind of blur. That's why I put on such a wet background. See how easy that is to blur like that. And it's a technique that I use every once in a while when I really want to get some nice blurry color and working and stuff, and I'll push it around and stuff here with this. And if you get it too wet and you start to fight it, now, you know, if you're a beginner on this and you get really wet color like this, you can fight it quite a bit because you're not used to that. The colors slide really easy. You know, there's a couple ways to do it, but what I ultimately want you to do is get used to doing it and practice that, because that's going to teach you the light touch of the pressure of the brush that you use to manipulate the color. Till start to learn to use your brush, you know, lighter. If you start to use your brush at all hard, you'll pick up and do things that you really may not want to do. So this is, when it moves this easy, it's good practice. It's good practice to teach you brush control, movement control of your painting here, and so you can establish the look that we want to do here. So, you know, it's just good practice. Let's put some of that, maybe even a little heavier. I do like this little dark corner right here, up here towards the center of interest, and so I can just drop a little color right over there. Maybe even a little bit more of a streak of burnt sienna there. And see, I'll lighten the pressure of the brush. Just lightly hold the brush, pull it across, and that deposits the color. So when the surface is really wet, I don't push very hard. It's just lightly gliding over the surface, so it's depositing this paint. It's a different way of painting into a very wet, thin surface. Your color moves really quickly. Now, it will start to tack up and get easier. And, you know, that's kind of what I plan for. As the painting starts to tack up, I can start laying in more colors and doing more things and stuff, okay? But right now, that's working pretty good. Now, I'm just going to pinch wipe my brush. I'm going to go back to some more pinks here. Heavier pinks, heavier color, because I like when I'm doing this to lay into really, really heavy color. And I'm just going to pop in some more color here and model it a bit here. So we'll pick up some of this. We'll push that around. You can see it's really, really wet. Okay? And like I say, you know, you'll fight it and some of those that have been painting with me for quite a long time, you haven't painted something like this super wet, you will fight it. But it does create this beautiful, look at this, I can push this tone through there and I get this, it's what I call a marbleizing of the tones. It's like you're making, a marble countertop or something like that. The tones are going, you don't want to go so much that you mix them all to one color, but it's a great look, but it does take, let's even put a little red violet in this, but it does take a bit of a practice here in learning to use your brush softer here, but see, it's just developing some lovely tones, impressionistic, where these impressionistic flowers are going to be. And as it starts to tighten, and it will, and it's starting to just a little bit right now, okay, it'll get easier and easier to paint, and that's what I want. I might leave that one and kind of pick this one off here. Let's put a little bit of lighter. So I'm not really, other than just kind of imagining I'm going to have flower there, maybe here. I'm not painting the flower shapes yet. I'm looking for light and dark and some movement here, some streaks and movements of color here like this, which it just adds interest, right? You can pinch wipe your brush. Now, you can take any of the soft, you can come back here with some blues and push back and, let some of that modeling of this violet and stuff come out of your brush as well. That's this beautiful color here. Let some of that come out, and it's just really pretty. But it is a great technique, but like I say, it is frustrating if you're brand new to learn how to push that super wet, because every time you touch it, it like really moves, it really slides. So you have to use a real light pressure, and this is magnificent training. For those of you that are beginners and stuff, this is magnificent brush control training, where you have to learn how to hold your brush and use your brush with a lighter stroke so that you don't move the color too much. But look at the interest and color depth that you can get. And I can pinch wipe my brush, pick up a little bit of the blues and soften through and push some of that movement softer back. You could pick up whites, you could pick up a little pink here. See a little bit of pink, and you get this lovely modeling through the painting here. It's like a marbleizing. I used to do this in oils 30 years ago, and we'd use the oils really thin to start out with, and it was great. It was a great feeling, but boy, they didn't tack up for quite a long time unless you used a lot of solvents and stuff with it. But it's a great thing. Now I just love it in acrylics because it'll tack up and get me moving quite a bit faster. Okay, so there's a pretty good look. See, and I have some nice movement, like a spot of brighter violet and stuff right in there might be pretty. Just boom. See that contrast of that. See, and you try. This is the beautiful thing about painting like this. You try some different things to get some different looks here, and I'll just push some of that in. Now see, I can hold my brush and just drag it across there, and it's just gonna start pushing in. Maybe put a bit of that, and get some of that color, that movement in there. So the depth of color that we're putting in right now is pretty amazing. Okay, now I'll set that brush down here to the side, and I'm gonna go over here, grab one of my brushes. This is an 8 brush here, and let's work some reds and some of our violets together here. We're going to turn this one up. That top one that's over here is pointing down, so I'm going to turn him up here and push that center red right in there. Okay, and so I use a lighter pressure and I'll just deposit that red in there. Now it starts to tack just a little bit, and it's getting just a bit tacky here, which I really like, and so it's not too bad to push in this color right now. Let's put in a bit of red. Let's pick this out as the center of this one right here. So we'll push some right into there. This one back here, let's not really see it too much. Maybe just a bit of movement there. This one right here, let's take that quinacridone in red. Let's imagine it opening up right in here. And we'll lay out some, so I'll take just a glob of this color and just lay it right in there. Nice thick paint. I won't worry about any of this yet. We got lots of time to manipulate that, okay? Let's take a bit darker. Down here, we'll turn one down just a bit more of the red violet, and just this nice modeling. Now, you can also, at any time, just take a bigger, softer brush, you know, and go through that. And I don't have my other one right here, so I'll use my long handle brush. But a bigger, softer brush, see, and just pull through that with the movement that you want. So if I want this to move this way, I'm going to lightly, just lightly hold the brush in your hand and pull down like this, and see, you get that beautiful movement. Anything out here, you can just push, and those will blend in. But you can create that lovely kind of movement that's right there, okay? And I'll take some of this and just, now if you only have over here, this is just a spot on the canvas where the board there that was a little slick. So as it's drying, I watch for those, and I'll just touch over those a bit. But see, and you can gently go like this with your soft brush and just pull through any kind of movement that you want to soften anything. So now you got all this lovely color depth there, see? And you're an acrylic, you know, you're working with an acrylic right now, and so I can, with this, if I find it, now I'm going to go in and start painting the flower. So I've got this beautiful, basically this beautiful background here now with the light brush pressure, okay? And it does take practice, guys, because it is, you know, don't let that frustration build in you when you're doing that and stuff's moving. If it's moving too much, let it tack up just a bit, okay? Because it will, and then it becomes super easy to paint on. But you get all this lovely depth, so it takes practice. But now I could let this completely dry up if I wanted to. You know, like I showed you with the Southwest painting and the sunset, we could put a coat of glaze on it and paint up on top of it like we normally do. Or like I'm just speaking here for a few minutes, letting some of it tack up just a bit, and I'm just going to come in here and start building it. You can go directly in there. But it's all a matter of brush control, and these kinds of techniques take that really light brush. And so if you're coming from decorative painting and stuff like that, where we used our brushes quite a bit, you know, more firm, more pressing down, you're going to have to learn how to just lightly, I always think of butterfly wings, just lightly touching the surface on something like this. But you really create some beautiful looks here. And see, I can just lightly move, and I'll be painting now for movement. And this is what gives you this magnificent movement here, see, to those petals there. All right, so I'll come in here and I'll add some light right up here. And I can add a little bit of the medium. I'm not going to use any more extender, because and the only thing I'll use if I want any medium is the open medium here, because I want the flowers to be stiffer. Now just a little bit and lift off. And this will make a nice soft little pink petal here like that, okay? And you can see you can get different color depths here by, you know, nice movement into it by just how much paint. So if I really want a nice opaque one here, let's warm it and change it just a bit here, okay? Let's pull this one in like this and down. A little heavier. I'll pick up a little more paint so it's a little thicker right there. Touch and lift off, okay? And then I can take some of the paint off like this so there's not so much, and let that undercoat just kind of soften it out and take off, and you get more of a transparent look, see? So you can get different looks, and I can push that blue up into the edge to cause it to thin out, so you can get different looks. I'm going to go a little heavier here, pull that edge down here, and that'll work out okay. You can get the, you know, put in some real, you know, beautiful kind of wrinkly edges and stuff to the petals here onto the Rose of Sharon, pulling in right like that. But we're going to turn this one up, so let's pull a petal here that kind of turns it up. So I'm pulling across here and just kind of drawing and setting the petal here. And we'll maybe wiggle one right here that's the front looking at us, right like that. So we'll leave that one just about like that. Now, I'm going to let this, I can work this some more. I can work some of the light in and out here. The other thing that you can do, and I really don't say it enough to you guys, and I really should. You know, when I was an oil painter many moons ago, well, I'd always do a two-brush painting. Well, when you're painting with acrylics really wet like this, you can do a two-brush painting too. Maybe a smaller brush that's into your other hand. And then I would put some of the other color, like the reds that we were using, right in here like this. And, you know, you can go back and forth. So I want this a little thicker, so I'm going to do it a couple times. Touch and lift out. Now, when you come out here, let's say I'm going to come right out here. I'll put the red in, okay? And I'm going to pull it out right here. This is very important, so listen very carefully. I'll touch and I'll lift off. Now, what I just did was I picked up light in my brush. Do you see it? And if I touch back into the center, I just put light back into the center of my brush. That is so very important that you slow down inside here, okay? And after each stroke, you redress to your palette so that you don't introduce white back into the center of the flower here. So I'll redress to the palette here, pull out, redress to the palette here, and pull out. And this is how we're going to put that nice dark movement in and out of this Rose of Sharon here. And so, and then we'll go here. Now, as we go to the other brush, we'll hold this one over to the side. We can pull that light back in this way. Now, what do we just pick up? Dark, right? So I usually tap it off and go back into my white. Otherwise, my light pile slowly starts to get lighter here. But I'll just pull in here. Let's pull in this edge. And I can slow down, get rid of some of that. I can slow down and put it right on an edge and draw it right down in there. So I get those and separate some of those streaks and stuff, you know. There's all different kinds of ways. And so sometimes I'll go back and forth, but I like that movement there. And if I take out too much, I just come back with my red and I'll lift the red back into that here. And oh, I almost touched it again. See, that's a little heavy. You'll touch it there and then you'll introduce that light. And you know, that can be a little bit disastrous. Let's take that out just a bit there, like that. So that's a pretty kind of shape of one in there. It starts to set up, you know, some of the shape of the flowers here. So we got lots of highlights and stuff we can still do. But let's come down here. Let's just lighten up a bit. Let's add a bit of the open medium here. And we'll just pull in the idea of a shape of one here, because it's going to sit into the background. So we don't need that much here of something. Maybe we'll put a heavier little petal right here. Sometimes I'll pull out if I want, especially a background one, where I want a fracturing the edge so I don't pick up an edge. Like this is an edge. This is not an edge. And that so you see the edge here and then you see it recede here. So maybe I want it to recede a little bit, so I'll let that edge disappear, and I get that mostly by just pulling out. Let's leave that one just real soft there for right now. Okay, let's come back over. We'll pick up some of this nice light. Let's change it a little bit. Maybe just a bit more quinacridone into this. That was a little too cool. Quinacridone's really cool. Red violet is, the naphtha red light is really warm. We'll make this just a bit cooler, some of the light here, okay? And let's draw the petals. So one comes in. Now you can do the light first like I'm doing now, or you can do the dark, either one. There's, there's no like real set. You do lights and darks, and, in decorative painting we had sets, you did medium value colors and then shadow colors and then light colors. But when you're painting like this, you can do lights and darks or darks and lights, either one. And so I'll set that light in, draw the petal. You can see I can set it up on the point and pull in. And I can leave an edge if I want, or I can just soften, pull that out, draw that little petal there like that. I'm going to pull some down this time, give a different look here as I pull the fronts of here. And usually, Rose of Sharon 5 petals here, so we'll push that on there. Now, so I have that. I can take my dark here, work that, and if I don't pull out too far, I don't have to redress the brush, but it is always very safe, very, very safe to redress the brush. See, because I'll pick up a white. Sometimes it's just a little, but it's and you can get a really good look here, guys, by doing quinacridone around and then red violet a little bit less. So you can go around with one tone like this, okay, just pulling right out like that and setting up that light to dark. You can, boom. Now, if you want to pull them out even farther and set up more, more streaks, if you want to use a narrow brush so you get more, if you want to get these little bits of the lines here, then you can use a pointed round. I have one here, something like a little pointed round, and pull out. That would give you that. But I'm doing more of a casual painting here, so I don't want to add those little lines. But after you put that on, then you can come back a little darker with just some red violet and don't pull out quite as much. And that'll give you a nice look to the Rose of Sharon here as well. And I don't need to redress my brush because I'm not pulling out to that light there. And we'll model that up in here maybe a little bit more. So I can do like this and just pull out a little bit now with that red violet and put an even darker, more contrast center right in there. Right in there, and model that up a bit. Just leave some of that red violet in there. That's kind of pretty. Okay, and I think I'll see how this one goes and see if I need to do anything with that in there. Let's go back to more red. We'll push some red in here. So I did the light on that one, then the dark. I'll do the dark kind of here and then do some light. Doesn't make a difference. Here. Boom. Let's go a little bit darker right down into the center. Pull that. And as the paint starts to tack up, so it's just a little tacky here, I can push and get some of that movement that you see me do with roses and stuff like that, and get a different type of movement here. Okay, so there's all different kinds of ways to do these. And this is just good brush practice to paint something like this when it's really wet, and then watch, and this is what I love to do with the students, and start out super wet like this, and then watch it tack up and watch how long it tacks up, and then that tells me how much extender they're using, are they using enough or not. But it's good when it starts out like that, super wet, and it's really hard to paint against that. That's good brush practice for learning to use your brush really light and soft. Let's bend this one right down and in here. Boom. So I pick up a little bit of that dark, so I'll take that off. Let's just pull that petal in a little bit more. And then down and in here. Right down and in there. So this petal bends out. See, it gives a nice different kind of movement here to this one. Here. Pull it in. Boom. We'll let it kind of stop so it looks like it goes down into the throat of that one. Here, and we'll just pull a little bit there for the edge of that petal. Let's pick up some more light. Here, we'll pull this light and down and in. Here, boom. Sometimes I'll stroke the second one without redressing. Gives you a different color. Here, a little softer. Here, boom, like that. And while that is going on there, you can always pull out a bit like that. Boom, touch that touch right here and just pull out, following the contour of the Rose of Sharon there, following that contour as you're doing that, the contour of the petal. Okay, let's this would be number 4. We'll put on just an edge of it, pulling out this way. Let's give it a little contour here, pulling out, boom, pulling out like that. And then petal number 5 will come down this way. Maybe we'll pull an edge here in, so I get a nice edge here, like that. So that sets up a pretty one right there, like that, going that way, see? And I can even take a little brighter red, like this one's going to be kind of our center of interest, kind of pulling one. We can even do a little bit more red, so it's a little different. I do like that red. Maybe we'll hit a couple of other little petals with that red. Just a little touch of it. That's a pretty color in there. A little naphtha red light, just boom, right in there. It's up to you. Let's cool this down. So this is what I was working with. Let's thin it down here a bit. Now, why thinner? Because I'm going to go down here where I don't really want a lot of power to this flower that's down here. So I won't go as light. If I want to tone it, I can add a touch of green. See how it grays it immediately? Okay. So usually when I'm going down and painting in and toning and stuff, I'll add just a touch of that green here. So let's just pull, we'll just shape this so that one and these can pull down in here, so this one's falling away. Don't want to do a tremendous amount of stuff to this one. We'll bring a touch of light, maybe it's a little bit of a wiggly petal here, right up into the front. This pulls in. That is a bit bright, so what I'm going to do is a bit light, not bright. I'm going to pinch wipe my brush and just lightly pull down in through it like this, which is going to pull the light right off of it, right down, and soften it out. And this is the one advantage to having a wet background there. Still in there, you can soften down into the background. Let's just thinning that out a bit. If it doesn't move onto the surface, thin it back out. Your surface could be drying, and your surface will dry if you didn't have enough wet there to begin with, okay? And that's where the practice comes from. This is why I'm a big advocate for practice. I'm not a big advocate for showing you something, and this is the way I teach, and I hope a lot of you appreciate it. I really do, because I don't present something to you that it's just bang, here you can paint it. Usually the stuff I present to you takes practice, because it took me lots of practice. It takes practice, and that's what I want to do. So, but some of you that are experienced painters may have to do 2 or 3 of them, and bang, you get the technique. Some of you that are beginners are going to take 25 or 30 to get it. You'll all get it, but it all depends on how experienced you are with the brush. Okay, so you can all do it, but I like to present stuff that take practice. Even to all my students and stuff, I don't present stuff that's just, here, grab this and let's paint really easy. No, because it takes practice. I believe in practice. We're redressing the brush, putting this nice in like this. Okay, then we can add more dark into the center there if we want. But now we got those flowers on there, and then look at the beautiful tones that are still kind of going all through here. That's just real pretty, see? It works really, really well. Now, you can continue on and do small stuff with a small brush. There's a couple of what I call technique, I'm going to rinse this out here, this dark red, because I might put some light into it. When I do that, I've introduced water. Water will cut through anything really quick. Matter of fact, let me take a position of this and show you. Water is a solvent for the paint. So if I leave any kind of water in there and touch anything, see, it cuts it real quick. See that? So water when you're dealing with a high-grade acrylic is its solvent. And so you can move and touch stuff really and take off really easy. So what you want to do is make sure the water is completely out of your brush, and I pinch it really hard there like that, and then I'll work some extender back into my brush so that neutralizes the water here, and I don't need very much. Or you can put in the extender, then a little bit of open medium. Now this brush is good to paint here. It will not pull a hole anywhere into that or loosen up. So when you go clean your brush, you've added a solvent to your paint. So you gotta get rid of that solvent. Now I'll just take a bit of this light and pull down, just like I was pulling the dark out. I'm gonna streak a little bit of my lights here, and I like the smaller brush because I can streak a little different. And each time I streak, it adds a little more interest to the petal, to the flower here, which I like. And let's add you can go to the petal edging technique and kind of draw a petal edge here, like that, and pull that in, so you can get one. Let's draw this petal out here a bit so it looks a bit different. You can leave it, you can blur them now like that so they come out a bit. There's all different kinds of ways. Let's draw this edge back down in there, and a little bit of that light, and just let that petal sit up there like that. You can streak them more, just pulling down. Different looks. Practice different looks, and use the corner of the brush, the edge of the brush here. Get all kinds of, let's kind of whoop-de-woo this, kind of pull that petal up like that. Maybe put a bit of that light coming right there. And then it's pulling out this way. So you get some nice movement to that little flower there. Now you can ruffle the edges even more. I mean, if you want, because the Rose of Sharon does have some nice ruffly edges. So if you want to use just a corner of the brush like this, and you can come in and really ruffle up the edges there of the, just like you would see in these, you can ruffle them up there like that as much as you want. That's up to you here. Okay, how much you work, and I'm going to work just a bit more light right into that. Maybe just even ruffle that just a bit there. Just pull back down. Okay. If you find the petal is like a little too even and stuff, other colors, I like to introduce other things to it, like a little bit of that toned green. Put some open medium in this, some really soft kind of green grays. If I find that everything's a little too even, I'll introduce a little bit of the green grays into here. And you see it's a nice tone. It's a nice tone in there, taking out some of the brightness of it. And I'll use that in shadow areas and areas that I don't need the intensity to the color here. Let's just maybe push this back a bit with some of that gray and leave that little transparency there. So it paints the flower a little different. So I can take a bit of that gray, just push it right into those right there. Let's put a little more ruffly light right up here. And see, I'll just bounce that around and twist and push my brush so I get that different little edge there. Then I'll put a little pink into it, just lightly pull across. And if I go too far into that center, I'll put a bit of that center color and just pull out a bit. Maybe a bit of that red in there too. Pull out a bit here like that. So now you get that light part of that flower really comes forward there. And you can ruffle or twist up a petal here like that. There. Twist that one up a bit. And so I put maybe a little bit darker pink or so underneath it. So right here, I'm going to thin. So usually when I work a shadow, I work it thin. So my power stays to my lights. So I'll push that back. Let's run a bit more light. Maybe even ruffle the edge a bit here. There, right in there like that. That's all up to you, how much you do, you know. Just a little, just pick up that little on the corner of the brush, and I just kind of draw it and ruffle it around a bit. There. We can put a little bit more just light, like a light stroke, pulling down in here like this, and redress your brush so you don't pick up that dark. Pull that in. Now I can push that too to create that. Starting to paint. Before I couldn't push it because the paint was so wet. Now it's starting to tack up a bit, and now I'm back to where I can push it a bit to get some of those pretty looks and tones and stuff. So let's keep it a little thicker now. Let's bring this petal out a bit. Here. Pull down in. Bit of that. Let that shadow sit in there. Let's pinch wipe our brush. Take a bit of this thicker and pull some of that streak. Lift off. Redress. Lift off. Come out this angle a bit. Then I can push them a bit if I want it softer. But that's a kind of a nice, well, that's a good casual way too. That's a good, you know, nice little streak of that color. I like that color. Let's put a bit of that streak right out there. So you can see you're building, and as you build this, and this is going to be your own thing, is how much time do you take on something like this? That's all up to you. You know, it's, I'm just going to just gently kind of simulate this one. But, you know, I can go back with another layer, and these would start to become even more magnificent if I just change the colors and use a little bit, you know, a little different pressure, a little different, slightly different tone, and you paint it again. And, you know, that's what I do with what I call studio paintings, really in-depth studio paintings. I'll paint them several times with several techniques and you know, different, slightly different tones, and paint them back and forth, and you know, take a little bit longer time. And that's what I do, is just change the tone a bit here. Now I want to keep this, should keep this soft because it's sitting underneath that one. So let's just keep that soft. We want to draw a little bit more. Let's do it out here. Draw that edge in. Here, pull that in, down and in. Push that out a bit. So, and I got it a little cloudy there because my finger had some of that light color, so I'll just take some of that out with some color here. Let's put a little darker right in that center. So we control that a bit. And that's a pretty color. I like this little bit of warmth right there onto that one. Okay, so I like everything here. Let's go back to and let's keep it a bit warm, so a bit more of the naphtha red light. Add some open medium, we'll keep it wet, and then we'll build our lights. Don't mix up too well. We'll let this model a bit, and let's fluff up this right. That's a little bit of too much of a straight line, so we'll add one more little fluffy little thing here, and pull down in. Here, pull down in, just pull, lift. I'm not hitting the dark, so I don't need to redress my brush. I'll always wear where my brush is hitting. Let's go with just a touch lighter. We'll hit that edge here. Ruffle that just a bit, pull in just a bit. Now you see you got this real pretty petal. And sometimes on a flower like this, which is going to be towards my, you know, really my kind of queen, my center of interest, I'll work quite a bit on those petals and get some nice streaks out there. I might pinch wipe my brush, pick up some of my quinacridone reds here, and just pull those streaks out a bit. Redress, because I hit that white. Pull those out a bit. See, it gives just a real pretty movement out of that center there. And then make sure I have that center nice and dark again. Pull those in and out a bit. So it makes a real pretty, soft, more powerful petal there, see? And it needs a new paper towel. And let's come back right into here, pick up some of those lights. Let's let this go right up on top of that one. A little bit of fluffy here. Pull down. Let's get it a little heavier light. I like that little bit of heavy light right there. So all we do is just tap into a little more light and push that light. Then lift the brush, turn it on its edge. If you use the brush on the chisel, you get a lot more streaks in it. That's up to you. Into it. Let's go just a touch lighter right here. So it gives a nice variation. See, more light I put on there, really shoving that one right there to the back. But I really could use a bit of the softer red out here. So I'll redress. See, I hit that white, see? I'll pick up that light. It's there, so I'll get rid of that. Redress some of that nice movement out of that. Maybe a little longer through the center there. Just like that. Then push some dark right into the center. See? You get that real pretty color, real pretty little flowers there. And softer, you know, sometimes I'll paint these really, well, you see, like, go back to the playlist or the video where I taught the hibiscus, where I paint these types of petal flowers. Because the Rose of Sharon is just shaped pretty much like a hibiscus. And I'll paint those more, very much Alla Prima, very strokey, like I did on the hibiscus, which was really pretty. And a little different. So this is a little softer, but they have a lot of color and a lot of life and a lot of energy to them. But a little bit softer than what I did on the hibiscus, so you can see. So go watch that hibiscus one if you haven't. And we'll push just a bit of that in there. We'll let that one just stay really soft. And maybe we'll lift this right here with a bit of a pull across here. So we'll turn this one sideways here. And this should have one coming back at an angle like that. Just an idea here. An angle right here. So it's kind of cupped, pulling back down in there. Now what does that do down in there? It leaves me some room to get some greens, push some of those other tones, and see, I want to push these tones in there. No, I haven't lost my mind. I didn't just screw it up. I'm pushing color in there. Okay, right now I know some of my students are going, he just destroyed it. No, don't worry, it's okay. I'm going to go back to a thin color because I'm going to work with my shadows and stuff, and I'm going to push some burnt siennas in there, and I'm just going to take away some of that pink and start to push like this, so I get a modeling, some of this kind of modeling and stuff back up in there. And let's even take a little bit of the touch of the blue and the red violet and some green. Real cool color, just nice high contrast, dark, cool, right back down in there, see? And then we'll push onto that. We'll push the soft pink of that shape of that flower there. So it goes right down into the shadow here. We'll even pull some of that down right there. So it pulls down into that shadow. Let's take some of that real cool, maybe a bit of burnt sienna so it's not quite super cool. And push some of that right in here. Now you can negative paint like you've seen me do on roses and stuff right up there, and really push in some of that color. I can soften anything right in there by just pulling pink down through, because that's the main color of the flowers. But I do like some contrast here, and negative paint a bit to pull some of that color right in there. So you see those just kind of pulling out here. Now, you know, I mean, you could do more if you want. If you want this one out here, let's get rid of some of that red violet that we liked earlier. You want this one to pop up a little bit more, you can push some of that red violet and just leave a dragged edge there as well. See, that's real pretty with that red violet right there. Just boom. there's powerful. Now you could use a quinacridone if you want it a little softer. That's pretty as well. You know, get some of those tones in there. That's pretty. We can take a softer pink color and pull across to soften, but I want to get that modeling of some of that tone through. Let's thin out and model some of this tone a little further out here. Maybe a bit of that reds and stuff right out here, right towards the edge of the board there, so it'll give you the feeling of back ones back there. And I can do that right back up here. Just kind of pull these through here. Boom. Just the idea that that's going on there. I like this, really, this kind of pulling color through here. And maybe I'm going to take my big brush. No maybe about it. I'm taking my big brush here. And I'm going to work that tone across here like that through there. Maybe one here also kind of pulling down a bit. Those violets. Look at that pretty violet color here. Just kind of blur it out a little bit, see? And it just makes it kind of really nice. And we can take, you know, we haven't even really used our yellows yet. We haven't done stamen and stuff yet, but pull some of the yellows stuff through here too, which will give you another warmer tone. Works very, very well against this, especially since we're going to be putting in the stamen and stuff in with the yellows. But let's just put some of that. We have some light leaves to add and stuff too, so you know, don't get too carried away. But see those kind of golden colors through there, right? That, you know, that yellow and that, especially that diarylide and the quinacridone, when they mix together, they're just kind of modeled together. They're so pretty together. So, boom, just some of that color there's kind of nice. Now, let's go back here for a second to our smaller brush. I'm going to rinse it out. What do I do when I rinse it out? I pinch wipe it really well here. Put a little extender in it. You can put a little open medium in it and make sure that water's been neutralized. And let's start out first with the yellow oxide. Now, why yellow oxide? Because yellow oxide is the most opaque, and if I'm going to place the stamen in there, it'll help opaque it out. I'm going to add a little bit of white here. Use just the corner of the brush, and I'm going to build this, just kind of pull across slowly like a little cone, get smaller and smaller, but not perfect here. And I can blur the edges a bit with my finger, or you can use a separate brush here and do that. Let's pull this one out this way. Out like that. Here we go, and just kind of hit the edges. This one is kind of going out this way. Tap just that corner, then light little pressure here. You fuzz the edge of the corners of that. And now let's add a little more yellow oxide and some burnt sienna so it becomes softer, more toned here. And push that in. And just let what's left in your brush here kind of touch into this one here. And I'll just tap into that to let that go really soft. There, I want that one really soft there. Now we'll pick up some diarylide, maybe some of the Hansa, tap into a little bit of light here. And we'll touch lights kind of here, so kind of touch the upper right side of this. Just don't go past center, just tap the upper side here, so you get a little bit of a highlight here onto those. That's kind of pretty. And I'll incorporate those. I like to incorporate stuff. It means it brings it in together. I'm going to take some red violet and some yellow. Don't mix it up. Just tap it together a bit. And just tap right along the bottom edge of these. and that brings the two of them together. Don't mix it to one color, just tap it so it'll come out yellow, it'll come out red violet, and this will put on the intermediate, we call a half tone, right in between. Kind of soften those out. Boom, just like that. See? That softens those flowers. So now you got this real kind of pretty background and stuff working with that, and now we can come in and I like this little spray of lighter yellow green leaves here. So we can make a lighter yellow green here, both, I mean all your yellows really, and a little bit of white and pine green here. And we'll push some light, just use the edges and the stuff, and kind of like a little fluffy drawing kind of technique here to kind of suggest the leaf. So I'll do them, you know, maybe a little bit more perfect than I really do a lot of times when I paint Alla Prima. Set up the shapes a little bit more, like a V shape, and then they just get a little smaller here. Let's take a little bit of yellows with that. Just kind of set those lights out. But you set them up in like little V shapes of the leaves here. Boom, boom, pulling down to that center. And you can draw out little vein, you know, little leaf lines here. And then, you know, with your yellows as well, yellow greens, just move in some color, more impressionistic. After you do a few of those, just move in some color here, more impressionistic here. Because you don't need to paint all of them. You can just do very impressionistic afterwards. Let's go slightly darker, maybe a little more burnt sienna into some of our yellows and yellow greens here. Model those together. Do a couple shapes over here, a little bit darker, like they're in the background back there. That haunts it so pretty into these leaves here, but get some nice variation. So you can take some of that shadow and pull from the base out if you want to add even more to your leaves. But I tend to really, you know, I used to always paint perfect, beautiful leaves like the Dutch style and stuff when I paint it. Now I tend to paint them very Alla Prima, very quick. I like the Alla Prima quick, lost edges and stuff, and push into some of those shadows and stuff there. Just give the impressions of them. That's where I am today. Let's get a little bit of dark here. Some of these tones, pretty, you know, you just come right in here like this. Maybe it's a back leaf back in between them. Little touches of color here. That's right in there. A little bit more yellow, green, slightly different, always kind of changing the colors up. Here. Bit of the movement. Here, that's kind of pretty. And so, you know, I'll look at this. If this starts to look too smooth or something to it, you can come back and do what I call chunky it up. You know, get back into your Alla Prima, very casual brush strokes, and start doing casual strokes up on top of them after you have the, you know, the basically the shapes and stuff here, you know, set to them. So there's all kinds of things you can do. I'm going to take a little bit of this dark burnt sienna and some of this green and just set up some movement of some lines. I like a few like stem lines. Burnt sienna, dark green, and red violet makes nice dark lines here. Just a few. I like that kind of stuff. And pulling through some stems and everything there are really kind of nice. And you know, the other thing, and I don't, you know, most of the time it's because I totally forget about it. But, you know, add in, and I see them right in here. Like, it'd be nice for you to see them too. This little bud right there, stuff like that. So sometimes, you know, little buds like that are kind of fun to add in. And you can kind of just add in little buds here. And just little circle ovals. You can make one kind of opening up here a bit. You know, just make sure you take some of this nice, beautiful, lighter green and just touch onto the sides of it there. You know, it makes like a little bud, and the little buds are fun. Of course, it grows up onto a setter stalk, so don't go out too far unless you have another one, but they're really kind of fun to put one or two in and just kind of around this, and just let, you know, like there I'm putting it in and I hit the sides there with the wet green from the leaf, and I'll just leave that there. You know, it's got a little bud there, and you know, maybe a little bit more of a brighter, you know, beautiful little red right out here for the bud. Pull into some of that blue. See, it's still wet, so we're an hour now into that paint. That blue, everything there is wet, so don't push too hard. Let's put a bit light, just a bit, model that together a bit. See, that's why I like it. Just push it together, model it there. And it doesn't need to be anything perfect, because you know, you already see the flowers, and if you just put up a little shape like that, people will say, oh wow, look at the little bud, because it kind of looks like a little bud. Okay, and it works that way. We'll put out just a bit more of some nice bright yellow green, a little stroke or two of that right out here, a little bit of green work here, a little bit, just little brush movements. And then I think I'm gonna maybe take a quinacridone stroke onto this one. That's kind of pretty. Ooh, it does add quite a bit of a nice little power there to it. See, nice little power. And I think that's enough. I think that's enough for that particular kind of painting. It's really kind of fun like that. And but I'm you know, I'll be very, very honest with you guys. When you put that much paint on and it's really thin like that, it is super difficult to do. There's a couple things. I really would love for all of you just to practice that, because it takes good brush control to be able to manipulate the colors when there's that much and it's that wet. You really have to get soft with your brush, really, really lighten the pressure. And that's just going to teach you good brush control, okay? There's easier ways to do it. Use less of the extender and more of the open medium that kind of glues it down. But you know, what's the goal? What's the goal of this painting? And what I like to do is use a little bit of to help you teach some of the brush control and stuff with it. But you know, give it a try there, okay? And hopefully click like right down there, because these are a lot of fun. We'll go back to some landscapes, and we're going to start the brush ups also this week too, so watch for all those new videos. And there's a new one coming to the memberships part of it. For those of you that don't know, we've turned on the memberships, and we're going to be adding in the next couple months about 40 videos or so into the memberships. Realign some of our channels and stuff, and the memberships and the different levels will also give you access to you know, the different types of videos and stuff, and the live classes. We have a live class coming up this week, and it's probably going to be Friday or Saturday. We don't know. I'm talking to the membership right now, choosing which date is going to be best for everybody. And so we have a live class coming up in the next 5-6 days, and that's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. Okay, so I'll see you guys, and don't forget to click like, and then I'll see the members into the other classes and the other videos this week. And for the rest of you, I'll see you on the next one a little bit later on. Okay, thanks very much. You guys take care. Bye bye.